What is up, guys? Tyson Dela Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. So today's the big day. Today is the big day. Kamala Harris is going on Fox News to do an interview with Bret Baier. And we are going live with it. Shout out to everybody watching. Drop your comments in the comments section, in the chat. We got the chat wide open. And if you're catching this on the replay, in the comments, type in replay. What is up, everybody? Oh my gosh, this is gonna be fun. I'm excited. How many of you guys are excited to see Kamala Harris on Fox News? What's up, Salty, Justin, My Mind, Gina? Hope you guys are doing amazing. This is gonna be fantastic. I don't know if you guys have watched some of the stuff that happened. First off, I'm not going to say where we recently gave the United States, the Biden and Harris administration recently gifted $250 million to guess who? I'm not going to say it on here because YouTube's they're going to shut the video down. So I'm not going to say where it went, but it definitely didn't go to the hurricane victims from Hurricane Helene or Hurricane Milton. It went to something started with a U, second letter K. Oh, man. Hope she falls on her face. We will see. We will see. Oh, man. So she's been on this campaign spree about talking about Donald Trump's cognitive abilities. And yes. Yep. I'm going to pop it right on the screen. My mind said it. I didn't say it, but it's on the screen. Shout out to all the mods also. But yes. Yes. So Kamala Harris has been on this spree of talking about Donald Trump's cognitive abilities. But man, she hid Biden's cognitive abilities forever. And now all of a sudden she wants to talk on the tarmac. This entire campaign, she's never stopped and talked to press on the tarmac.
The test? Well, I'm going to say what I've said publicly and will say many times based on my observations, and I think the observations of many. Donald Trump is increasingly unstable. And as has been said by the people who have worked closely with him, even when he was president, he's unfit to be president of the United States.
Do you think Donald Trump needs to take a...
So this is the situation, right? She hasn't really said anything on the tarmac. Jack says, just curious, do you have anything nice to say about Kamala Harris? Yeah, I heard that she makes a mean pot roast or a mean prime rib. I don't know. And I don't know her personally, but I know her policies are a little late. I heard she makes collard greens in the tub. I don't know if they came out any good, but other than that, I don't know. Her policies just recently came out before the debate. And yeah, she doesn't seem like a very fitting presidential candidate, just in my opinion. So other than that, I don't really have anything else to say about her. Gina says it right here. Gina says it right here. So I don't know. You know, maybe collard green. Maybe, I don't know. I've never had tub collard greens, but maybe they're good. Maybe they're good. I don't know. Oh man. Let's jump into this. Let me make sure that they are not on. I'm going to pop it on the lower portion of the screen here until they pop up. And during commercial breaks, we'll be in the chat because this is live. So they're going to go to probably 2 or 3 commercial breaks, and then we'll be jumping in the chat. We'll be jumping in the chat. Here's another good compliment for Kamala Harris. She laughs like a hyena. That is a very good compliment. I think I think that's a skill. She has the ability to laugh in any situation. Oh, man. Oh, boy. This is going to be fun. I'm excited for this one. Yeah, but she's been on this campaign with, talking about Donald Trump's cognitive abilities, but she's been hiding Biden's cognitive abilities for the past 3.5 years. And she wants to push this medical record thing, and it's just, don't we got better things to do here? Don't we have better things to do here? 2 minutes out. And as soon as we hit it, we go on full screen. Oh.
One more thing. Brett Baer's interview with Kamala Harris is coming up in just a few minutes. And now one more thing. I have a quick one. Percy loves to get these acorns at the park. So how many nuts do you think he's hiding in his mouth right now? How many nuts, Judge?
5, 6,
7.
Oh, wow.
3.
I was going to go somewhere with
6.
that. I was going to go somewhere with that, but I didn't for YouTube purposes. Let's see. I don't Todd says they have to edit everything. Let's see if this is going to be heavily edited. Wayne. Justin, yeah. I how many nuts was that guy putting, or that dog had in his mouth? I don't know. Oh, man. How do you guys think that this is going to turn out? Do you think that it's going to be heavily scripted or heavily edited? Let me put it like that. Do you think it's going to be heavily edited? What do you think? Hey, what's up, Vicky? Thanks for joining. Yeah, Todd says heavily edited. We'll find out. We'll find out. And it would be interesting because they still haven't released the 60 minutes transcripts, the 60-minute interview transcript she did. They still haven't released that. So I'm wondering if they're going to release the transcripts for this as well. This is going to be interesting. Todd says heavily edited. Simply Serene says most definitely. You almost have to, right? With this particular presidential candidate, you almost have to. Ray Reynolds says, I hope it remains peaceful after the election. Yes, 100%. Yeah, I don't think that they'll release the entire transcript until after the interview, but we will see. We will see. I think I don't think it's going to be as heavily edited, but it's going to definitely have some edits. It's going to need to, right? It's going to need to, I think, right? Because she'll just kind of ramble on and word salad it up, and you can pick your dressing and place whatever type of dressing you want on the word salad. Oh, here we go. Hold on.
Good evening. I'm Brett Baer.
Oh, here we go.
We are coming to you tonight from Washington Crossing, Pennsylvania. We have an exclusive interview with Vice President Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee for president. You will see it in its entirety. It is her first formal sit-down interview with Fox News. The vice president held a campaign event with Republicans who support her just before the interview here in Washington Crossing. This is the spot that commemorates where George Washington crossed the Delaware River on Christmas 1776, the night before the Battle of Trenton. First, a look at today's other headlines. North Carolina's governor says nearly $100 million in relief aid has already been dispersed to people affected by Hurricane Helene. Nearly 200,000 in the state have applied for federal assistance. Media reports in Israel say the Israeli government has decided on targets in Iran for potential retaliation over recent missile attacks by the Islamic Republic. One report says Israel has described its general attack plans to the U.S., but had yet to give an update on specific targets. The Dow climbed 337 points today to another record close. The S&P 500.
I thought they were going to go right into it. They're talking about the S&P 500, super important still, but we want to see what's going on here. Choices for president. Now 50%. Donald Trump has a particular lead here. This is for Fox polls. Polymarket's been going crazy, by the way. Polymarket has just been off for Trump. Crazy. Here we go.
The country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point. Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an
rough estimate of 6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question. I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the. Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish.
You had
please.
the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they
in the
didn't bring
middle
up
of
that bill.
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done
Yes, ma'am.
as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And
six
Donald Trump,
Democrats-
but let me just finish.
Six
And
Democrats
Donald
voted
Trump
against that bill.
learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing
Six
it.
Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the six Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungari's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss, sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to
Brett,
answer
in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
There were
that's how the
90
system
plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel, to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what, you got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works, that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes into office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president, one, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's
if
not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a
so
cakewalk
are they misguided,
for
the
anyone.
50%?
Listen,
Are they stupid? What
oh
is
God,
it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
he was asked about that
No,
specific...
that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you.
That was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the president of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump, you call Donald Trump, he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
But those
is,
proxies were getting funded
my
by Iran.
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to
oil
Donald
profits.
Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put
But here are
Iran in check.
the estimates
and
in
then
billions
it was during Donald Trump's
that go
administration
towards the
that
Iran regime.
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention
Madam
how
Vice
Donald
President,
Trump has,
all of this money
has treated
that
and
has
talked
gone
about
in the
America's
past few
military
years.
and military service people,
Critics
calling
say
them
that it goes to
suckers and
Hezbollah,
losers,
Hamas,
has diminished
and
the
Houthis. We're
significance.
talking over each other. I apologize.
Well,
I
would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a
And there
decision
are
that
critics
they
who
feel.
look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things
There's more to say. I have much more to say,
there are a lot of
actually.
things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and
Yes.
that's why we
I
invited
invite
you here.
everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
And that's why
intend
we
to do to
invited you
strengthen our
here
economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are
support
now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
They said, wrap it up. Wrap it up. Brett's cooking too much. Brett is cooking too much. They said, wrap it. Wrap it. Get her out of there. Get her out of there. We need support. Get the AED. We need the life support.
One, I think it is great that she did the interview with Fox. And I think that it was amazing that you were the interviewer. I think that that was an incredible 30 minutes well spent by both of you. Now, I would say I thought some of her answers were a little bit thin. And I had to ask myself, where's the joy? There's no joy here. She came in kind of hot and she got angrier. But at times, especially when she was trying to go after Donald Trump, she was fairly effective in that to try to get her point of view across. However, I would say on immigration that her answers were pretty thin. And there was one thing that she said, I think this was about the transgender surgery issue. She said, you are responsible for what happens in your administration. And I imagine that the Trump folks over there said, oh, okay, let me just take that clip and put it right in an ad, because the questions about why does 79% of the country think we are on the wrong track when you've been in office, her answer saying that Trump's been on our radar for 8 years and was president for 4 years, 4 years ago, I didn't think that that landed very well, but I thought the interview was super good. And I would add this. I don't think that friendly interviews did her any service. Tougher interviews make her think more on her feet, and then she has to present herself as the possible commander-in-chief so that people can make this choice that they have coming up in 19 days.
Yeah, Martha, I've been through a lot of these big interviews. Normally, you can kind of get in on the breath. You can ask another question. Sometimes, you know, there's an effort to filibuster, and there's an effort to create a moment. And I think that was their goal coming in. I tried to redirect numerous times without interrupting too much, but at some point, you kind of have to redirect to get back in the game.
Absolutely. And Brett, I thought you did a masterful job. This is the kind of interview that we should see a lot of on the campaign trail. And we have seen Trump, and comes to mind the Bloomberg interview yesterday where he was getting pushback. She has not exposed herself to this kind of moment. And, you know, there were numerous occasions where she appeared to be scrambling a bit and that her answers were thin. I thought you really asked the questions that a lot of Americans want answers to, which is, how did you let all these millions of people come into the country? And do you have any regrets about it? And I think her answers were not good on that, you know. And about the economy, when you asked her what would be different under a Harris administration as opposed to a Biden administration, you know, the things that she brought up was that she would listen to Republicans and she would listen to the business sector. She also mentioned the $25,000, which we've heard about, that she offers home buyers. But we didn't get a clear, who are you? What do you stand for? What would America look like under a Kamala Harris economy? So, you know, I think that was a rough moment.
Good. Let me play this soundbite. It's on Turning the Page, stop 3. If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But
people
you're the
have
lever of
become,
power.
but listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous.
Harold, at that point, I really didn't know what she was talking about because she was going back a decade and talking about Donald Trump. So thoughts overall?
So first off, you did a great job. You did a great job because you asked the tough questions and you went back at her with tough questions. And she should be pleased with how she performed this evening. I think what Dana and Martha are saying, there's a lot of truth to some of the answers that I would have wanted a more wholesome or full answer to. But she got a lot out of this interview. And I think one of the things that I hope it makes clear to her campaign is that coming on Fox and coming before our audience is the right thing to do. 2, she said something I think that she's going to want to make clear and repeat over and over again. And that was when you asked the question about whether she would be like Joe Biden, or her administration, if she's fortunate to be elected, will look like Joe Biden. She said this will not be a continuation of the Joe Biden administration or presidency. I would imagine they're going to run that over and over again. Probably some of the things they won't run are some of the things that Dana and Martha have touched on. I thought she should have been clearer about her position on if she's for the transgender operations or transitions or not. If indeed she on immigration, if she's for some of those things in 2019, I think it would have been clearer and firmer had she just said, no, I'm not for those things. But I think tonight was a sign and a signal to the country as to why we need more debates between candidates. You, in many ways, Brett, were having to ask the question over and over again and follow up on behalf of a lot of our viewers, and I would argue a lot of Americans who want clarity around the transition between 2019 and 2024. But overall, this was a win for you, and she has to be pleased with how she performed this evening.
I mean, she definitely had a moment there where she was talking about Donald Trump and the threat that she sees, and citing the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Dana, I started with immigration because she does do this talking point about we dropped a bill in the first days. I mean, the bill was dropped, but it was an amnesty bill. It was a to get 11 million illegal aliens citizenship in 8 years, and they had the White House, the House and the Senate, and the Democratic leadership did not bring that bill up. And then, I was trying to get into the progression and to let her see. I was talking about the executive orders and the actions taken in the first days. It just took a little while to make that point.
So her answers are not going to pass the smell test with an audience who has watched loyally. We have more Republicans, Democrats, and independents than watch than any other news channel. And we have covered immigration since well going back. I've been here 14 years. We always talk about it. And one of the things she does is she sandwiches in the bill she's talking about, which you clarified, and then the bill she says that Trump killed. In between those things is when you had the millions of people flooding into the country with no other reporter but Bill Malugin and Griff Jenkins down there at the border covering it. The story of a lifetime. And now people are dealing with that in not only in New York City, or not even just the border states, they're dealing with it in all the major cities. And they're dealing with increased housing costs and the problems with the schools and increasing crime. And what about the jobs? I mean, all of those things. Now, I just wonder if at some point, if acceptance is the first step of recovery, if she had ever said something like, we could have done a better job on the border, just acknowledge it. Like, what would happen? Would the whole entire campaign fall apart? Because the majority of people think that Trump would be better on immigration.
She got cooked.
Yeah, not only that, but maybe more specific, she could have had this Sister Soldier moment where she separated herself a little bit. I'm pleased to be joined by Britt Hume, our chief political analyst, and we were trying to get him up for some thoughts. Britt,
she got cooked. Oh my gosh. Off the gate, she got cooked. My jaw, I don't know if you guys saw me, but my jaw was hitting the floor when Brett was coming out with receipts. He was, hey, check out this footage. You were on The View. You were on Colbert. And receipts came. And she was looking heated. She was looking heated. She could not contain herself. A lot of you guys are saying, could you really see her sitting across the table from Putin or, any of these other world leaders? No. Where's my mouse?
Better. I don't think that she cleared them up.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, we'll have a couple more moments.
She got smoked. Whoa. There's a full menu of Kamala's restaurant. We got scrambled eggs. We got smoked brisket. We got word salad. You pick your dressing. Oh, man. Holy smokes. Brett came out so hot. Man, you guys, oh, dude, this is definitely why we need individuals to do more of these, like presidential candidates, to do more of these interviews. She's been doing the basement strategy, an old school strategy from 2020, the Biden strategy, and it's not working. Yes, Mook, game over for sure. For sure. Heidi, what's up? Yeah, it's done. It's done. And the way that she was trying to rebuke or like combat Brett on the questions, man, done. Renee says anger and war, or anger and rage will get us into war. Sandra, thank you so much for the super chat, for the $5 super chat. Really appreciate you. And, General Hydra, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Really appreciate you. Man, thank you guys for the super chat. Awesome. This was a straight cookout. Who's bringing the sides? I should have brought sides. Macaroni and cheese, baked beans, cornbread, maybe some collard green. Oh man, this is gonna be everywhere. My jaw, I'm still flabbergasted by the amount of receipts that that he came with, and she had nothing. She had nothing. If if you miss it, just push back on the play button or on the scroll thing. Just push it back to the beginning. It probably starts about 5 minutes in. And if you're catching this on the replay, tap right replay in the comment section. But man, guys, what do you think? How do you think Polymarket is going to respond to this tonight, tomorrow? How do you think the Polymarket is going to, how do you think that's going to do? You're welcome, Vicky. And she had, yeah, Salty's right. She didn't have an answer. It was Trump's fault. I'm going to start using that. I'm going to start using middle class. And, you know, I was raised in a middle class. Anytime I get in trouble or anything like that, you know, anytime hopefully I don't get pulled over, I'm going to knock on some wood. You know, I'm going to say, you know, I was raised in the middle class. I was raised in the middle. And you know what? And the officer's going to be like, you know why I pulled you over? And I'm going to say, it was Trump's fault. Shout out to Jason for the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Was something burning up in the studio because 99% sure she watched her crash and burn. Yeah. Oh man, I still can't believe it. After this live, thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate you. What's up, Stephanie? After I'm done with this live, I'm gonna watch it again just so I can re-engage in the humor and watch me drop my jaw again. This was incredible. Guys, thank you so much for dropping in on this. This was a straight scorcher. Oh man. She definitely lost votes. I'm going to be on top of the Polymarket, and I'm going to look at oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the $1.49 super sticker. Thank you so much, Whale. Really appreciate you. Thank you. My mind, yes. TDS. I don't know if you guys saw my post on the communities tab on YouTube, but what is going on with Mark Cuban? What is going on with Mark Cuban? He has a combination of TDS and EDS, Elon derangement syndrome, and this guy is he's transforming into Rachel Maddow. It's just it's crazy. Salty says. Oh, yeah, she just deflected everything. And yes, King Bull, yes, we will be streaming live for the for election night. Probably start at 6:45. I'll put a post out for it in the communities tab on YouTube. Probably start at 6:45. Hopefully it's going to be early night because I don't want to say landslide just yet. But after this, it definitely might be. But we'll run until it's over, 2, 3 in the morning. I'm going to be going to order some food, so we might do a little combination of election night and a little muck banging. Mark Cuban thinks, yeah. Oh, yeah. Please join us, King Bull. Awesome. All right. This was an epic live stream. I absolutely loved it. You guys absolutely rock. Yes, I'm going to food reviews. Yeah. It might be a pizza or Chinese night for election nights or something on DoorDash, whatever comes up. This interview was bad. If you didn't watch the entire interview, just scroll all the way back and watch it. It is a jaw dropper. If you were on the fence about voting for anybody and you rewatch this interview, you are for sure going to make up your decision after this 30-minute interview. All right, guys, I am going to jump on out of here. Shout out to everybody watching. Thank you for dropping the comments. Thank you for the super chats. Shout out to the mods. Best mods, hands down, best mods. Really appreciate you guys. If you're catching this on the replay again, drop replay in the comment section. Share, subscribe, and guys, I will catch you later on. I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you guys. Peace.